In this transmission, we'll explore how Taurus opens the gates to your erotic wealth, what that even means, and how to stop giving it away, leaking it with your boundaries. How cultural trauma and shame has shaped our relationships to our bodies, and how to slowly and lovingly come back into our own skin. So welcome here, back to you, back to your sacred body. The Taurus new moon is not here to rush you or challenge you. She is not a hustle moon. She is a moon of reverence, slowness, warmth, honey, skin, touch, stillness, and she was never meant to be commodified or tamed. So she whispers to you, come back to the garden of the holy yes inside of you. But there's a complicated truth about beauty and sex and safety. Because before we move deeper into the lover's reawakening within, we have to pause in the ache and the complexity and in the truth. Because for so many women, embodiment is not just about coming home, but unfreezing the places within us that do not feel safe. Because let's name it. We live in a culture that fetishizes and fears female sexuality and worships the body not as a temple, but often as an object to be consumed. This didn't start with you. Our grandmothers and great-grandmothers, our bloodline, consciously or not, learned that their survival depended on being beautiful, desirable, controlled, chosen, passive. That meant you ate, your children were safe, you got married, you were less likely to be cast out, called a witch, or sold. But that same beauty, that same sensuality, it also made us a target. It invited violation, jealousy, rage, control, and rape. This is the heartache, the double bind of living in a modern woman's body during this time of awakening. We want to be powerful and beautiful and sexy in our own right for ourselves. And yet, it can trigger unconscious responses that makes us feel like prey. This body does not need you to fix it, but it asks you to feel it, to acknowledge our relationship to embodiment was not born in a vacuum, that we're not broken for having a complicated relationship with our beauty or our desire or our sex. And resistance to pleasure may have protected us, but now the Taurus moon is here, a place where all of this is welcome, the ache, the longing, the rage, the numbness. It all belongs in this temple of the moon, because this is the fertile soil of our sacred embodiment, not a bypassing, but a loving ourselves through it, a rebirthing ourselves through it, a rebirthing the new world through our bodies. However, there is most certainly a shadow to the awakened lover, the Taurus lover, and that is the repressed sensualist. Every woman knows her. Every lover carries her shadow. Now, let me tell you a story about a woman I coached. Let's call her Sarah. She's successful, runs a 6-figure spiritual business, leads retreats, teaches embodiment. But she came to me saying, I feel like a fraud. I can't feel my body. I teach pleasure, but I haven't touched myself in 6 months. She was performing sacredness, but her own sensuality felt like a dried up riverbed. And she'd been taught that to be good was to be busy. How many of us have that story? And then that to be spiritual was to transcend the flesh. That is an ancient story that is so much a part of the ascended spirituality, the spirituality of up and out of the body, the hyper masculine spirituality that has run religion, particularly Western religion, during the patriarchy. But here we are remembering the wisdom of the Tantra, the wisdom of the mystics, the wisdom of alchemy that has always been present in all spiritual and religious traditions. Often the women were leading this way of remembering that the body is not an obstacle to spirituality. It is the portal. So we begin small, a 5-minute oil massage, a silk robe, a slow bite of mango. This is how I worked with Sarah. And one day she called me and she said, I just cried while putting lotion on my body because I felt myself for the first time. And this wasn't about orgasm. To understand this moon, this Taurus lover within you, we must dive into the mythic woman who live in our bones. Let's start with Lilith. The first woman, not from Adam's rib, but made equal, demonized and banished for saying no to submission. But she never died. She became the serpent. And she whispered to Eve, eat the fruit, know your body, feel your desire. It is sacred. Every time you reclaim your pleasure through these simple body worship techniques, these simple moments of touching our skin, these simple moments of appreciating the scent of our lip gloss, the simple moment of really tasting the apple that was offered by Lilith to Eve. These are the moments that bring us back to the wisdom of Lilith and our deepest power that lives in our femininity, not for someone else's pleasure, not for commodification, but for our life force, for us to feel our life force. And we'd be remiss if we left out our beloved Aphrodite, born from the foam of a severed patriarchal power, born from the foam of the castration of Uranus, dropped into the oceans, the churning river, the yoni churning the nectar of feminine sensuality that arises as she comes up in that symbol of the shell, born from the waves. She emerges not from light, but from chaos. She is the wild, sensual feminine who knows that love and eroticism are not separate from power. Not long ago, I worked with a woman named Rachel, married, 2 kids, sexless for years. Story of many married women I work with, right? And she said, of course, I don't feel sexy anymore. But as we dove deeper, she didn't need lingerie. She needed truth. So we traced the shutdown back to her wedding night when she felt pressure to perform and please and to be the good wife. No one ever taught her that her pleasure mattered too. So I gave her Aphrodite. I asked her to light 1 candle each night, anoint her thighs with rose oil, and whisper to herself, I am the beloved. And that night, she didn't even masturbate. She just touched her body without agenda for the first time in her life. This is where the magic is, in touching our body without agenda. Not to do something, fix something, not to make it look a certain way. This is when the tears come. This is when Aphrodite comes home. When we say embodiment, it can really land as a buzzword these days, but embodiment isn't about sexy yoga flows or curated rituals. It is where your soul and your skin meet. And for many of us, that meeting is complicated. The lover often gets exiled in our busy schedules. And this Taurus moon is here to remind us we don't have to earn our softness. We don't have to prove our worth through exhaustion. We don't have to shrink to be sacred. The earth does not ask the rose to be a cactus. She asks her to bloom. And yet, the lover needs her king, her inner masculine, and maybe her partner, her boundaries. Because here's the thing about blooming. Roses need a trellis. Roses need roots. Vines need a stake. And the sacred feminine needs the sacred masculine inside and in the form of not only the goddess, all that is manifest, but in the form of God himself, the consciousness, the stillness behind the dance of form. And this is true as well if you choose masculine partners, that we need the sacred masculine not to control us, but to hold us, to anchor us, because this is where our sensual Free form, Shakti is the dance. This is where our Shakti arises when we feel safe. The yoni does not open when she doesn't feel safe. And as modern women, we create this safety for ourselves by not draining our blood and life force. Giving, overgiving, partners, cleaning, children, work. This is the conundrum of the modern woman. And still, we're expected to be sexual and sensual all the time. Well, loves, it's just not going to work. We can't just be full-time boss babes, soccer moms, and turn it on at night. We got to stoke the fire and keep it stoked with our sacred self-care, with our time for ourselves. And while I know that's hard to hear because sometimes it just doesn't even feel real, right? And that's sometimes true in our schedule. But Taurus is here to remind us that we must make this time because this is our life. This is our life, and this is what we are giving away and leeching. We are literally depleting our yin when we are overgiving, when we are performing. This society asks too much of women, but we are the only ones who can take it back, who can shift the paradigm, who can slow it down. Pleasure requires boundaries. Safety is sensual. Freedom flows best when it is lovingly held. That's by our own time boundaries, our own self-care boundaries, as well as those by the sacred masculine inside and outside. Now, when we're performing lover without boundaries, we cannot fully relax. We're in survival mode, even in silk sheets. If we're waiting for the phone to ring, it's just not going to work. So let's not forget, the rose has her thorn. Every rose has its thorn. The softness has its steel. The divine feminine and the divine masculine within are required to liberate our sacred lover, because the lover does not thrive in chaos. She does not thrive in exhaustion. She does not thrive in overgiving and overdoing and depleting her life force. She blooms in the garden where she is cherished, where she is protected, and where she is free. Now let's talk about real pleasure, not performative or pornified, not Instagrammable. The kind that starts with reverence, the kind that leads to healing, the kind that cracks you open to the divine. And it might begin with oil on the skin. I know for me it did. A sacred bath, breathing into your belly with one hand on your yoni, whispering, I'm here now, you're safe. You don't need to be turned on to begin. You just need to turn towards yourself. This is the core of Taurus moon. You are nature, you are worth, you are body, you are beauty. So let's get real for a moment here. Let's talk about erotic wealth. Your erotic energy is not just chemistry. It's not just a feeling. It is a power. It is wealth. It is creation itself. It is what makes this world. Your womb is a portal. Your pleasure, it is a spell, sister. And your sex nectar is ambrosia, the literal holy water of the goddess. It is the amrita in Sanskrit. It is the sacred nectar that creates life. It is the flow of our creativity. So I'm going to ask you, with love and clarity, are you giving it away for free? Are you giving away your erotic wealth for free? And that doesn't just mean to lovers. That means to your work. Are you giving your erotic wealth away to your work for free? Are you giving all of your erotic wealth away to your children? There's a time and a place, right, for all of these things. But to come back into the fullness and the wholeness that is the feminine wheel of the zodiac, we want to make sure that we are not leaking our erotic wealth to people who cannot hold it, honor it, or reciprocate it. People in situations. Are you settling for breadcrumb connections, hoping that one day it'll feel like devotion, performing sex like a duty or offering it like a transaction rather than a temple rite? Because here's the truth. Every time we every time we betray our body to keep love, we bankrupt our erotic bank. Every time we say yes to someone who does not need us, even if it's because our body wants it in that moment, right? Our sacred wealth dilutes. And every time we forget that we are the treasure, we forget our birthright as a living embodiment of the goddess. So Taurus moon says, know your value, guard your nectar, build your inner treasury before you spend your soul. Invest your erotic wealth. The lover doesn't need to chase, she magnetizes, and her erotic wealth is sacred. It is the magnetic force. It is not for sale, not for validation, not for performance. So ask yourself, what is the true goal of my erotic energy? Where do I want this power to flow? This creative life force, this infinite capacity of God, goddess that moves through me. What kind of love and art and life and liberation, what kind of world are you building with your erotic life force? You get to choose. And when you choose with devotion, your erotic energy becomes your most sovereign currency. So sister, what if the lover is not something you become, but something you remember, something you never lost? Even if our sensuality, our body can feel like we're looking at it from 6 feet away, right? It might be buried in shame and speed and sacrifice, but the Taurus new moon here now, it is a womb of rebirth. So enter it softly, slowly, and sweetly. Let yourself be rerooted. The yoni opening to the earth. Eat something slowly. Anoint your womb with oil. Speak a love spell into your thighs. Wrap your arms around your heart and say, I am home. Because you are. And when women return to the lover within, the world truly begins to heal. Like all things, the new earth is born from the wombs of women, from the yonis of women, from the pussies of women. When we return to these sacred portals, we reclaim our power to rebirth a new world. A world in which our babies are safe. A world in which our young girls grow up to feel like they can explore their body in safety. Happy new moon. May the earth rise to meet you in every part of your body. Taurus, lover, if you had been initiated into your sex by a circle of wise women, by a circle of crones, by a circle of mothers who knew the value of their bodies, who knew the value of their erotic wealth, who knew the value of the nectar, the ambrosia of the Amrita that creates life, that creates this new world, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. Because our erotic current, it is innocent, it is pure, it is like a child. This return back to the lover isn't a return to looking a certain way, or acting a certain way, or wearing a certain thing, or having a certain lover, or having sex a certain amount of times. This is a return back to the root of healthy community that is in harmony with the earth herself. Because there is no greater mentor on the path of the lover than the great mother herself. It's spring, mama. That is no coincidence. Taurus comes in the spring. Taurus comes, we're getting towards belting. We're getting towards that essence of the lover here. When the birds and the bees are procreating, take a look outside, because there is no greater Tantra teacher than Mother Earth herself. And she is here to initiate, and reinitiate you again and again and again. So get outside, smell a flower, feel the pull of the rose as she lures you in, effortlessly magnetizes you to smell her, effortlessly magnetizes the bees. This is the essence of Taurus. This is the essence of the lover within. And here you are, you have arrived. Here you are back in your fullness. I see you. I am so grateful that I have watched women reclaim their bodies for years now on retreat, in one-on-one coaching, in my groups. And there is nothing like a woman coming home. There is nothing like a woman coming home to her body. And there is nothing like a woman coming home to her sacred nectar, her erotic wealth, her erotic innocence. Blessings on this path of reclamation. Blessed be, and namaste.